Hello, welcome to another episode of Heart of Strength. Heart of Strength was designed to really encourage us as women. I feel that God gave us all a heart of strength, and it's a matter of us recognizing what those strengths are and how to utilize those to help other women. I was thinking this morning as I'm sitting outside at our lake house and was thinking about the handprint of love. The handprint of love that is given to us by women. I think that we are influenced not only by our mothers, but by other women throughout our lives. I can think back of several women that definitely influenced me through the years. I think I was thinking about that this morning just because we just celebrated Mother's Day. And so I was thinking about just how people in general, how we can really influence so many people. And I was thinking about Hollywood. I don't know if you've been to Hollywood or not, but I'm sure that you're aware of the handprints in the cement, right? The stars, when they have what we would say established themselves in that industry, they've become an icon. They were able to go and put their handprints in that cement to last forever, for people to walk by and see the impact that they've made in the industry. Well, if you're a mother or you are a woman, I want you to know that you've made it. You have your handprint, and your handprint has been given to so many people. I think it's an opportunity that we have, right? That it's far more valuable than that slab of cement on Hollywood Boulevard. You have the opportunity to place your handprint of love on so many lives. You have your opportunity to do that with children. Not only your own, but others. I've been thinking this past week a lot about my mother. I remember as a little girl thinking of how beautiful her hands were. She always had them just done. Her nails were always painted. They were shaped perfectly. They were her natural nails. Back then they didn't do all the acrylics and things that they do now, but they were natural. But she kept them so manicured. If you were to look at my mother's hands, though, that you would notice some of those physical characteristics. Her hands were very soft. I'm sure when I think about it, she used that Estee Lauder product all growing up. So she had that hand lotion from Estee Lauder that she put on throughout the day, every day. She was so faithful in doing that. But on one finger on her right hand, it was calloused. You see, she was a secretary, an assistant in her industry for years and years, where she used a pen or a pencil over and over, and it created a callus on her finger. Through the years, I started noticing her hands started to have the effects of arthritis, and you could see the crookedness that began in her hands. These physical characteristics relate to me, though, in a couple of different ways. It's that spiritual and emotional attributes that really make me start thinking about her handprint in my life. You see, the softness, I think, of her hands really represents that tender touch, right? That tender teaching that I was given from her as a child. She taught me about God's grace, the truth in His Word. And she taught me, her and my dad both, the importance of church. For me, the callus that she had on her hand was that displays that strong work ethic that she carried. She expected us to work hard. We had summer jobs. We had jobs that around the house, right? We had our chores. That was an expectation that she put on each of us as kids. And I think that's what that callus represents. And then I think of those bent hands through the years as she started getting older. You see, my mom made mistakes. We all make mistakes. She was imperfect, just like you, just like me. We all have things in our lives that we want to have a perfect family, don't we? And maybe the appearance is that we have that on the outside, but reality is we're imperfect, right? Our children know that about us. Our children learn that we are imperfect, and that's okay. I'm going to ask you to do something, though, this morning. I want you to take a look at your hand. And we're going to go through each finger. Some of you may have heard this before, but I want us to look at our fingers and what they represent. The first one is your pointer. Your pointer finger, I want to say, represents trust. You see, we've got to trust God. We have to make sure that we're trusting Him. It's the first key to that handprint of love. In other words, it's impossible for me to make that handprint of love on the lives of my children and on other children unless we first have allowed God to be in our personal lives, right? We have to present and represent God in a way that we show that we trust in Him. Once we do that, we are armed. We are ready to go as women. We place that handprint of love, that blessing on the lives of those that are in, the children that are in our lives. The second finger represents, we live daily. We live daily for Christ. In Colossians it says, and now, just as you trust Christ to save you, trust Him for each day's problems. Let me read that again. And now, just as you trusted Christ to save you, trust Him too for each day's problems. Live in union with Him. In other words, let your roots grow down deep into Him. Draw that nourishment, right? Draw that nourishment from Him. When you see that you go through something and you're growing along the way with the Lord, you become strong. And the truth, that's where we represent that second finger of daily living for Christ. So why is that important? Why is that important in our homes? Why is that important in our workplace? Why is that important when you're at a soccer game with other children around? It's important that we trust in God. It's important that we live daily for Christ. Because guess what? People are watching. We have an audience. We have an audience, particularly with those children that are in our lives. They're watching. They're watching us. They're looking to see how we live out our trust, how we live out our relationship on a daily basis. The pointer finger, trust, right? Then we have live with Christ daily. Now let's talk about the weakest finger. It's that ring finger, right? It's the finger there. They say that it's our weakest. And so for me, I think about prayer. I think that represents prayer because we're weak. We have to rely on God. We have to be talking and communicating with Him through prayer. We have to teach our children the importance of prayer. Prayer is vital. Again, in Colossians, it says, always earnestly praying. asking God to make you strong and perfect, to help you know His will. That's what we're trying to do. We want to know God's will in everything that we do. Parents, aunts, mentors, we need to be praying for those children that are in our lives. We need to be praying for those women that we're mentoring, right? We need to be praying that they have a deep relationship with Christ. There's ways that we can do that. There's ways that help you be that mentor. If you're involved in a church and you love to be around children and you want to make an impact, get involved. Get involved in that children's ministry, the youth ministry, right? If you are in the workforce, there's all types of organizations that are looking for mentorship, help for others, particularly women, on how to mentor, showing God's love, that handprint, right? Share your spiritual growth with others. Great way to leave that handprint of love. And then definitely be lifting those individuals up in prayer. Now, the pinky finger, that represents teach. We are to teach. We're to teach our children. We're to teach other women, right? It is commanded in Deuteronomy, it says, "These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, and when you lie down and when you get up." This verse really talks to us as parents and individuals of how to be with our children on a daily basis, all day long, how to make that impact. It says that it's upon your hearts. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. So you got to go back to that trust factor, right? You have to have the truths ingrained in your own heart before you can give to others. So what do we need to teach? I think we have to really recognize that children are they are so valuable, right? They are valuable not only to us as parents and as influencers, but guess what? They are valuable to God. That is who created them. We need to make sure they realize how valuable they are, and we need to make sure that they understand their uniqueness, the way that God made them so special, how to help them instill their talents. I think that I think of teachers. I think of how valuable, if you are a teacher, you have such an impact right now on how to have that handprint laid before and on those children. I think that we could use some visuals, right, in teaching children. It's so important for them to understand. There's a book, let me look here, it's Gary Smalley wrote it. It's an older book. I think it was Gary Smalley and John Trent that wrote the book called The Blessing. But he communicated of how God used words with pictures, right? Pictures, basically, illustrations of how to learn by, right? That's what we did with the Bible. There's different illustrations. He called, one of them in here, he says, he called the nation of Judea a lion. A lion paints that picture of strength, doesn't it? So as we're teaching our children, maybe we need to utilize some of those pictures, those descriptions, those illustrations, right? Maybe we could tell a child, you are such a leader. It's like you're a train, right? And you're the engine, and you're leading the train where it's to go. The course, the speed, right? That's what an engine does for a train. That's the way that a child can understand their strengths, is by giving them different illustrations. And then I think we ought to also teach a child the practical life skills. I think we're missing that a lot of times nowadays. I think that this is something that we can definitely help them with, because I think they're not getting that as much in the society that we live in today. So that's another area that we can focus on in mentoring and teaching children. And then last, I would say we've got to teach the Word. We have to teach how it is so important that the children learn the truths and they learn to rely on God's Word. Now, I didn't mention the thumb, so let's talk about the thumb just for a moment. The thumb is really about affirm, right? We're not only to trust Christ, to live daily for Him, to pray for our children that are in our lives, to teach those children, or maybe the women that are in our lives. This could be applied to children or other women, right? We are also to affirm. We are to affirm those children that are in our lives. So for us in a family unit, I would say that the thumb, it's represented, right? In our family, it's by the thumbs up, right? We represent thumbs up. It doesn't matter whether our children are on the soccer field, or they're maybe in a play at school, or they've done something really good with their grades. Maybe they did a music recital, piano, music instrument. When we're watching our children, what do? We give them a thumbs up, don't we? That means that we love them. Good job, right? It's It's affirming who they are. That's what we need to do with the children in our lives. That's what we need to do with other women in our lives, right? We need to tell people constantly that we are proud of them. We need to tell our children that we love them. I have girlfriends that when we're on the phone, before we hang up, we always say that we love each other. We need to be affirming those emotions, those feelings, those ways of how we feel about one another. It's important. It's not based on their performance, because we know who people are. We know people are not always going to perform at their best, but we want to affirm the love that we have. I think for children, we need to hug, right? I think that is something that we need to do. We have to be careful out in the community. We have to be careful nowadays, unfortunately. It's just the truth of the matter. But for our own children, we have to make sure we are hugging them. Give them a pat on the shoulder. Tell them how proud you are of them. That is how we make a handprint on the lives of those children that are in our daily lives. It's how we put the handprint even on adults, those women that we're mentoring, those women we're working with. So what are they? Trust Christ. Live daily for Him. Pray. That ring finger is pray. Teach, right? So we have to do, the pinky is teach. The thumb is affirm. I want to say this again to all of you ladies. Whether you are a mom, whether you are an influence on children, you've made it. You have your handprint on the walk of fame in that concrete. You are something special. You have been given an opportunity to be far more valuable than that slab of concrete. You have the opportunity to place those handprints of love on others. That's what I want us to remember. That's what I want us to focus on today. As you go through the day, I want you to begin to look around. I know this is kind of pointed at how we help children because of me thinking about mothers and thinking about how we celebrated moms this past weekend. But it's also about other people, that imprint. How are you handling situations? I have a situation today at work that I have to handle. I woke up this morning, and that's part of the reason I came and sat out here in the beautiful midst of the beautiful nature, was because I needed to get close to God. I needed to make sure that my actions today, during the situation that I'm dealing with, the phone call that has to be made today, that my handprint of love is reflected. It is going to be reflected with the employees that work for me that will be on the call. I want it to be reflected of the customer and how my team and myself conduct the situation that we're dealing with. I want the handprint of love to be there throughout. Think about that today as you're going through your day. Is there an opportunity to have that handprint of love being shown to others? Thank you again for joining me this morning. I hope that you have a very blessed day, and I look forward to visiting with you the next time that we film our episode of Part of Strength. Thank you so much. Have a great day.